Welcome to So Vermont Book Talk. I'm Amber Roberts. I'm filling in temporarily for Karen Simpson-McVicker. She's off traveling and working on an exciting project. I'm here with Paige Vignola from the Manchester Community Library and with Katy Farber, author of The Board. Katy Farber is an assistant professor of education and former public school teacher in Vermont. She's authored or co-authored 4 books about education, an award-winning picture book, Salamander Sky, and a middle grade novel, The Order of the Trees. The Board is her debut adult novel. So we're very excited to have you here today to talk about The Board.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. It's a great space.
So The Board is described as perfect for fans of Little Big Lies, and it's one mother's attempt to uncover the dark secrets that pervade her small New England town. Has she uncovered a criminal enterprise run by members of the school board, or is it all in her head? So that description grabbed me immediately. I had to read it. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about it.
So it's kind of a David and Goliath type story of a woman who finds herself she was living in Boston with her husband and her 3rd grade daughter, and she divorces and inherits kind of almost at the same time this house in an insular kind of conservative small town in New Hampshire, and moves to that town. And so that's where we see her go to her first school board meeting and kind of think it was like her old school that she was very active in, and it's nothing like that at all.
I am curious about what inspired you to write The Board.
Yeah, so it's got a really neat origin story. So I'm in touch with all of my students and their families for years, for decades, having been teaching in Vermont for so long. And one of them had posted that an editor and publisher was looking for somebody with a depth of K through 12 teaching experience to write a thriller with the seed of an idea of a somewhat narcissistic principal/superintendent and a woman who's sort of discovering what's happening there with a power structure or some sort of organized crime theme. And so we ran with it from there. And what inspired it was a lot of things. It was written during the pandemic. I was teaching in a public school during the pandemic, and there was a lot of parental angst, a lot of just anxiety pervading the school system and my students. And also at that time, there was a ton of book banning, still is, and a lot of hostile school board meetings that were happening. And so that kind of climate really just gave birth to the story in a way that I wanted to center just that struggle and sort of underdogs in that struggle, and also schools and teachers that are wanting to do right by their students, their identities, their humanity, and also parent involvement in a community. What does that look like when you're kind of shut out?
One of the things that I actually really thought was interesting was sort of this almost Stepford-like environment that she steps into. So there was this element of like the misfit coming into the town that is so perfectly manicured, and everybody's wearing their, I mean, not quite designer, but designer clothing on drop-off. And, I look down and I'm like, yeah, I got my sweats and flip-flops depending on the day. And I thought that was really kind of interesting that there was this sort of resistance to anybody coming in from the outside in addition to all the rest of the narrative that was happening.
Yeah, I really wanted to paint that feeling because I don't know about you, but sometimes in these cultures of parenthood or whatever, you can feel really on the outside, particularly when there's like a very established group with established norms or a certain socioeconomic group, and I wanted to show that otherness for her, showing up there, being like, whoa, this is the way it is here. It was different where the neighborhood she was from in Boston.
And how do you break into that?
Yes.
And do you want to break into that?
Yeah, that tension, and then her daughter is Piper. She's a 3rd grader. That's kind of this interesting amalgam of all the students I've had over the decades that just don't really fit into a general education system, and for whatever reason, they're very sensitive. They have anxiety, and I wanted her story to kind of shine through there, and what's beautiful and true and fantastic about her, and that's a real struggle for families.
I also kind of love the structure of like the 3 generation of women, right? I mean, and it's not your standard structure because it's not her mother, it's her aunt, right? And I sort of loved how even though the aunt is not present anymore, she is really this guiding force that keeps her on track and keeps her like, you know what, I can't give up. I can't give up for my daughter, but I also can't give up in order to be able to honor the memory of this woman who meant so much to me, even though I may not have some guilt about, you know, where I was at the end. So I thought that was really an interesting element as well.
Thank you. I wanted her to live through, and I wanted to kind of show how people that, you know, our ancestors are still informing our lives all the time in ways that we sometimes can see, but sometimes not see, but can feel.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad. I'm so glad you noticed that.
Particularly her bookshelf.
Yeah.
I love the fact that she had like that bookshelf, and she would go into that office and just be like, oh, that title. You know, I may be a little biased to bookshelves, but you know.
I find that what really draws me into a book is a sense of place, and I think that you did that so well, just developing this location that felt real. How do you develop a place, and what goes into your world building as you write?
Well, I think I need to credit, it's the November novel writing,
Oh yeah.
because several Novembers I've been working on intensely on projects, and writing in stick season in Vermont has a particular flair, right? You know, it's dark so early, the way that the rain comes down sideways, you know, you've got to cultivate your own creativity to, I think, to survive. And so that time and place, like late fall into early stick season into November, felt really right for the story seasonally, because it's kind of this, it's getting dark and the story's a little bit dark, and then and the New England nature of it matters so much. It's almost, I was hoping it would feel like its own character, because it just informs, you know, that town just seems so steeped in history, like you said, a little insular, but then the natural world is there to provide, you know, cover for her, and also just that constant setting that, I don't know, that I love in a book.
So one of the things I actually about setting wanted to ask you about is that obviously there's a distinction between the town that's in New Hampshire and how she keeps going out into Vermont in order to be able to have those other conversations. Were you trying to set up some kind of dichotomy between the two? Is there some kind of line that you were attempting to draw? I mean, I'm just I was really intrigued by the fact that it wasn't all happening in the same state.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking New England writ large, but I live in Vermont and have for a long time, and wanted to also honor that. So, and in my mind, of course, are some rural schools in Vermont that I have worked in or that I have been to, that help build that setting. And then thinking about New Hampshire, we know that there's been maybe more book banning or more restrictions on education or discussing real, true, hard histories, racism, things like that, that have been limited in New Hampshire. And so that news had informed the plot as well and the town selection. But obviously it's a made-up town.
Right.
I would love to also hear about how you balance the kind of like thriller elements with just the feelings of family and togetherness, and how you kept the tension going while balancing both of those so well.
Oh, thank you. It was really fun and exciting to work that way. I sort of come from more of that relational place and setting place, and so trying to make a piece that was really plot driven like this was a challenge. But I had written other suspense scenes that really informed the work and sort of got me to a place where I could see where I wanted every chapter almost to end and to how to drive the action forward. I almost saw this one differently than my other projects, as like a movie in my head the entire time, like a thriller movie that was being sequenced. And so I did have to go back and resequence a lot of things. I thought it was going in one direction and it was too predictable. So I really wanted to shape it differently, and it's almost like I had to go back to the editing room for a movie. And that's how I saw the whole thing. I think it helped that I was in sort of a quasi-dreamlike state, because I would need to leave for my job about 6:30 every morning. And so I would write from about 5 to 6 a.m. a.m. and I would just be coming out of sleeping and sort of get into this story, this definitely season I was already in, and it was more like almost vision driven at that time. And we talked about earlier, having a really discrete time to write something gives you that fuel. Like you need to do it from 5 to 6 a.m. And that's all you have. So you better show up, slurp the coffee and go.
So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like maybe you are a little bit of a pantser. You were talking about November novel writing. So there's plotters
Oh, yes.
and pantsers.
Right.
Plotter works out all the details and knows exactly where their story is going, but the pantser kind of discovers along the way how the story is going to be shaped, and maybe does an awful lot of trimming or editing as they go. So where do you land in that?
Well, I knew this concept came to me. I knew I wanted it to rhyme. So I knew I wanted the opening scene and the last scene to be connected really deeply. And so I kind of had a vision for those. And then I knew that who the key players were that were going to get me there. I'll give a little teaser hint, is that I don't like the way that older women are represented in media. And I wanted a fierce, strong, passionate, older woman to kind of come into a found family and help drive the plot. I really wanted that. So I knew that was true. And I knew I wanted Piper, who's the 3rd grade daughter, to have just pivotal roles throughout. So those were kind of, it was almost like I had the bones, but I didn't have, I didn't have it fully plotted. So I'm kind of in the middle, I guess. Yeah.
Did any of the characters really surprise you with who they became?
Well, I knew that Till was going to be where she was. I had that feeling. I wanted her to represent that. I didn't know Piper was going to do the things she did, which was interesting. I wasn't quite sure about Silas, where he was going to go. If the love interest was, how that was going to roll out.
I really appreciated that it didn't. I'm gonna no, in all honesty, because I loved the fact that it was really sort of based on female relationships all the way throughout the book. And when he first made an appearance, I was like, oh no, don't do that. And then she was like, oh no, we're not doing that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I really appreciate the choices that you and he both made in that environment.
Thank you.
You talked a little bit in the beginning about your work in education and how you brought some of that to writing this. But was there, how did your background really shape this story and the story you wanted to tell?
Yeah, boy, what a great question. I've been thinking about that a lot, is because I work across genres and in so many areas. But as a former classroom teacher and current assistant principal, I'm working for a type of education that is personalized and honors the humanity of all students and gets them engaged in real learning that's outside the walls of the schools and connects them deeply to their community. So this is through project-based and service learning. I'm very passionate about that. And I'm also very passionate about teacher sustainability. How do we make this a career that is more humane and is more, nurturing and focused on developing these professionals in a supportive way. So I've written a lot about both of those topics and done a lot of research about them. And so they inform the book because that's what was taken away from Liv and Piper when they moved to this town. And you may have seen like some of the school board drama where they'll completely wipe out a certain school board because they weren't following a sort of ideology or weren't rigorous enough. But I've made the case in research that this kind of learning is rigorous and in fact can be much more so, and has the ability to help kids not drop out of school, has the ability to have them feel a sense of belonging for the first time in their lives. And so this fictional strife about this school really feels relevant to me because it's the work I'm doing professionally in real schools with people trying to both sustain the teachers in this tricky field like we know the one teacher Lydia is chased out, right, for her progressive and engaging and honest teaching. So to help teachers stay in the field, and then also to engage kids in really deep, meaningful learning in these environments that help nurture them. And they can be flexible, and they can be choice-based, and they can be creative and rigorous and feature deep learning. So I hope that informs or comes through in the story.
What are some questions or some thoughts that you really hope your readers take away from this book?
Yeah, I hope they take away a lot of things. I hope they take away that the power of the found family, and the power of also just resilience and resistance in a small way that can feel small. I mean, obviously we're not facing what we see here in this book. This was taken to extremes, but in communities, we are facing so many challenges. And I feel like Liv's resilience and persistence, while sometimes questionable in some of her actions, which I've heard from a lot of readers, also is something I think we can all take at this time, and we can build our communities and connect to people across generations. And try to work for something where people are feeling more included, they're feeling connected to their local schools, they're feeling like their voice matters. That's what I'm really hoping. I'm also really want that female multi-generational friendship and community. I want that to show, and also how our students all of our students need different things, and how can we do better by them in this time, in this age, to help them when the world is a lot to cope with. How can we foster their sense of belongingness and success in school? So all of that. This is a tall order, I guess.
Are you able to tell us a little bit about what you're working on now?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't actually talked to my agent to know if I'm actually allowed to say things, but I will say it's kind of an adventure / thriller, that it's located somewhere internationally with 4 different women that are on this trip that goes very wrong midway.
Oh.
And then it flips to sort of being a survival tale between 4 different 40-something women who are they're friends from college, and they're all spread out over this landscape trying to survive.
I'm sold.
Looks like we're going deep into the relationship elements again. I love that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think that next we'll move into, we play a little game. It's Last, Now, Next, where we talk about the last book we read, the book we're reading now, and what we plan to read. Paige, do you want to start us out?
Sure. I didn't bring any props today, though, so I have to apologize for that one. The first, we shouldn't say it. So the last book that I just finished reading is V.E. Schwab's Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, except I'm going to amend that. I didn't actually read it, I listened to it. And that's a really big deal for me because I really don't usually get into audiobooks at all. I usually get annoyed at the narrators, but I did love the narrators in this one. V.E. Schwab is one who wrote The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I loved, which is why I got into this one. I got to be honest, I had sworn off Vampire Lit probably back in high school, but so I'm like, I don't know but I loved her. I loved the writing style so much. It really came through, and I'm now reconsidering my ban on Vampire Lit. Just want to put that out there. So loved. The Now book is a little bit of a change. I also love historical fiction, and so Ken Follett has a new book out about Stonehenge, and I am probably about 2 chapters into that one. I'm very excited. I love epic history stories. Historical fiction is definitely my go-to for the I don't know what I want to read. Whenever you get reader's block, for me, it's going to be historical fiction. It's going to fix it. So that is my Now. And next, I'm going to not only mention the book, but also a plug for the library and for Merck Forest, because the next book I'm going to read is called Lab Girl, and it's by Hope Jaron. And it is a book that is part of the NEA Big Read program, so National Endowment of the Arts Big Read program. The library and Merck Forest worked together in order to be able to receive this grant from the NEA, and we have a bunch of programming that surrounds the book Lab Girl. It is all about bringing hope and resilience and bring community together through the landscape. And so this book is by a woman who is a scientist, and she's narrating. It's like a memoir, but narrating it through the lens of her science. And very excited about that. And so the library and Merck have created a bunch of collaborative programs that are in support of this Big Read book. So that's my next one.
That sounds amazing. Merck Forest, we just the salamander, the amphibian migration. Back when Salamander Sky came out, which is a picture book that I have, we just worked together a lot and talked a lot about that. And I'm a fan.
Oh, aren't they fantastic?
They're so fantastic.
They're so fantastic.
So
Yeah,
I was just like, oh yes, I love that. I want to pick that book up. So thank you.
We're giving them away for free at the library. So
really,
yeah, it was part of the grant that we were able to purchase books that we could distribute for free to anybody in the community who was interested in participating in the Big Read. So yeah, come on by. Come grab one.
That's what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks. Do you want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. So I had the pleasure to travel to France, where my best friend is, over the summer, and this was on her bookshelf. I finished Sarah Strohmeyer's book, and that one was virtually destroyed from travel. So then I picked this one off her shelf, and this is a really incredible story featuring the same bakery, but two different related women, and one in 1870 and one in it was 1946, both in war-torn France, and how working in this bakery or starting this bakery in this neighborhood impacted their lives and the plot. And it's just really beautiful. And it also has recipes. I'm not a baker, but boy, I appreciate it. I appreciate the product. So this was just lovely to have that as the anchor to connect the stories. I just thought that was fantastic. So that was what I read last. And then what I'm reading now is by Catherine Center. This is Hello Stranger. And I'm doing a reading event with her in November. And so I was like, all right, I got to read some Catherine Center. And this is just feeling so warm and comfortable and cozy right now. And so this is, I haven't met her very far yet, but she is a struggling artist and had this really adorable sort of meet cute, trying to buy some wine for her own little celebration party. And then she has a little medical thing in the middle of the road, and it's very stressful, and I'm learning more about that. So that's where we are there. And then what I'm going to read next is Sarah Stewart Taylor's Agony Hill. I just did an event with her at Bear Pond in Montpelier. Her work is so, she does so much research about the particular times. So this was the summer of 1965 in Vermont. And they're looking into an older murder that had happened. And I just think that I love hearing about her research and how she went through all the newspaper clippings of that time and really got to know even the weather of that particular summer and how that translates into this Vermont plot. So very excited for that.
I have that one on my nightstand, and I can't wait to start it. I've got a stack, though, I have to work through.
Yeah. The TBR pile just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, sure does. Especially when we have people here.
Right. And you're like, oh, those are not only yours, but also 3 other books that now I need to read.
So the book that I just finished is The Underachiever's Guide to Love and Saving the World by Sloane Brooks. It is a portal fantasy romance where 2 neighbors who hate each other are sucked into a fantasy world because they are the chosen ones. The people in the fantasy world only expected one chosen one, so then they have to battle it out to prove which one is the chosen one. And it's a romance, so they fall in love along the way. Obviously, it's not a spoiler because it's a romance. And it's very entertaining, it's snarky, it's sarcastic, the one-liners are hilarious. I had to keep going to my husband to read parts out loud to him because it was so funny. I flew through that book. It was like sitting down and gossiping with friends, basically. It was so fun, very, very entertaining. And I loved that the characters were not meant to be the likable chosen ones. It wasn't a likable heroine and a likable hero. They were who they were. And they were fine with that and comfortable in being their snarky, sarcastic selves. It was fantastic. I loved it. I'm starting this one, main characters. I'm starting it probably tonight. I have not started it, but I'm counting it as my now. It is about 2 half-sisters who didn't really know each other, but their father dies and they have to go to his cabin in Maine and clean it out, and they meet each other and have to learn how to kind of coexist with each other. I believe this one was described as like an adult parent trap kind of.
That's kind of what it sounded like when you started describing it. Yeah.
So that intrigued me. I'm excited to get started. I haven't started yet, but I will. And then my next, so I've already read this one. This is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. But my next is the one that she has coming out next week, I believe. It is called The Keeper of Magical Things, and it is a queer romance, and I'm very excited to get lost in that gentle world. She writes settings that just feel like a hug. I love just losing myself in her world, so I'm very, very excited about that one. So yeah, those are my three. All right, so thank you so much for chatting with us today. We had a great time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's chat about what's coming up in the community for book-related events. What's going on at the Manchester Community Library?
Well, a lot, but let's narrow it down and talk about a few in particular. I mentioned before that the library had gotten an NEA Big Reads grant, so I want to tell everyone, particularly those with small kids, that on Tuesday, October 14th, our story time is going to be a Big Read event. It is an outdoor story time. And in addition to the Hope Jaron book that we have been supplying people with for the grant, we also have a middle reader book, we have a YA book, and we have a picture book. So Carson, our youth services librarian, is going to be doing story time with the picture book. Can you hear the plant speak? And it should be a lot of fun. So anybody who comes will be able to go away with a copy of the picture book. So that's happening on Tuesday, October 14th at 10:30 a.m. for story time at the library. Another super fun event we've got coming up is on Saturday, October 18th. And this is a fun one because it's kind of like an overlap between the NEA Big Reads and also the Vermont 250, because we've obviously been celebrating or commemorating the founding of the Republic of Vermont. And so this is one that fits both. I've got author who is coming down. She's Rebecca Rupp, and she's coming down in order to be able to talk about field and farming in 18th century culture, right? So the original title, now she has since emailed me and told me that she has altered the title slightly, but she has fabulous titles with everything that she writes. George Washington's Corn Whiskey and Thomas Jefferson's Peas, Farms, Gardens, and the Founders, right? So Rebecca's going to talk about what crops and garden veggies were grown in and around 1776 and why. So that should be a lot of fun. That's, again, a Big Reads event in addition to a Vermont 250 event. And obviously it's October, which means that we've got a big Halloween party coming up at the library. It will take place after Halloween on the Hill up at SVAC, because we know how everybody wants to do everything they can for Halloween. So when you get down the hill, you come down to the library. So from 5 to 7 p.m., we've got our Fang-tastic games. Oh, I can't believe I just said that one out loud. Spine-tingling activities and ghoulishly good face painting. So sink your teeth into sweet and savory treats, no tricks. And while you monster mash to some hauntingly hummable tunes. I did not write that description, but I am fully behind that description, I just want to say. We have all kinds of games, we have activities, we have all kinds of fun stuff happening, and you go from room to room and activity to activity collecting candy, because who doesn't want candy for Halloween? So that's Saturday, October 25th, 5 to 7 p.m. Also Halloween themed, we have our spooky campfire story time, and that's going to be a Thursday evening at 5:30. This is obviously not meant for the littles, it's for slightly older kids. And we're going to gather around the glow of our magically color-changing campfire, presuming that we are still allowed to have a campfire outside, although it is on hardpack, so there's no burn concerns. For an evening of spine-tingling tales and cozy chills. So this is our second campfire story time, so this should be a lot of fun. And then just to keep the theme of Halloween going, although this one's a little bit more gory and very entertaining for me, the library frequently hosts Red Cross blood drives. And they offered us a blood drive on Halloween. So so come let the vampires suck some blood from you on Friday, October 31st from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You can sign up through Red Cross website, or you can call the library and ask them to get you to sign up. But yeah, come give blood, save a life.
I will be there.
Excellent.
So happening at Northshire Bookstore in Manchester. Story time every Friday at 10:30. And then on Thursday, October 16th at 6 p.m., New York Times bestseller Riley Sager is going to join the bookstore and SVAC in conversation about his new novel. It's a tense historical thriller set on a luxury train. And that one is in conversation with Joe Donahue of WAMC Northeast Public Radio.
Cool.
So that sounds like fun. On Saturday, October 18th at 6 p.m., a globally renowned spiritual guru, Remington Donovan, is going to be sharing his beginner's guide to working with angel numbers. So that's great for October. It's a good themed event there. And then on Saturday, October 25th at 6 p.m., Gazina Bullock Prado will be discussing her newest cookbook, My Harvest Kitchen. And I have actually, my Vermont Table is a cookbook by the same author, and I love that one. I keep it out and use it quite often. So that'll be a great event as well. And that one is happening on Saturday, October 25th at 6 p.m.
Great.
So that's the roundup of Northshire bookstore events.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on So VT Book Talk. We will see you next time.